My parents forced my unemployed brother to move in, until I brought receipts. When my parents dropped my unemployed brother at my door, just for 2 weeks, I made a roommate agreement. He broke every rule, then accused me of being cruel. So I brought receipts. The delivery I didn't order. When my phone rings before 8 a.m., it's either a scammer or my mother. That morning, it was both. "Open the door," Mom said, breathless. "We're out front." I was halfway through coffee, half-dressed for work, wholly unprepared to find my parents in the lobby with luggage and my brother, Aiden, grinning like a reality show twist. My mother kissed the air beside my cheek. My father hauled a suitcase like he was moving into the witness protection program. "What is?" I started. "Aiden will stay with you," Mom said, breezing past me into the elevator as if she owned the building. "Just for a couple of weeks. He needs a stable environment to regroup." "Regroup," Aiden repeated, like a parrot learning a new trick. "My apartment is a one-bedroom I earned by working 2 jobs and saying no to fun for 3 years. It smells like lemon cleaner and independence." We stepped inside and watched my mother scan the space like a realtor, the neat bookshelf, the plant that refuses to die, the sofa I assembled with blood, sweat, and YouTube. "It'll be perfect," she said, eyes already rearranging my furniture. I looked at Aiden. 28, recently unemployed, allergic to accountability. In our family group chat, his failures arrived pre-wrapped in my mother's justifications. Bosses are jealous, markets are unfair, Mercury is in retrograde. He waved. "Hey, sis." "No," I said. The word surprised even me. "We didn't discuss this." Mom did that sigh that implies you're failing a test you didn't know you were taking. "He was evicted, Nora. His roommates abandoned him with the lease." "What were we supposed to do?" "Your building is safe. You have space. I have 401 square feet. I have a sofa that becomes a guest bed if you fold it like origami and pray." Dad put the suitcase down. He doesn't speak much in conflicts, he floats little lifeboats of sentences. "It's temporary," he said. "Just until he finds something." Aiden smiled the smile he uses when he's already spent the favor you haven't granted yet. "I'll be out of your hair in, 2 weeks. Promise." 2 weeks. A number chosen for plausibility and emotional blackmail. I rubbed my forehead. "Ground rules," I said finally. "Rent contribution. No guests. Job hunt every weekday. Chores every night. And a written timeline." Mom rolled her eyes. "You've always loved paperwork." "Yes," I said, because it turns wishes into rules. We wrote a roommate agreement at the kitchen counter. Aiden signed it with the theatrical flourish of a man endorsing a fan's t-shirt. My parents hugged me as if I were a saint accepting a relic. The door closed. Silence reclaimed the apartment. Aiden turned to me, eyes bright. "So what's the Wi-Fi?" I handed him the paper with the password and a chore list. He squinted. "You're serious about the dishes thing?" "Deadly." He laughed like I was adorable. "We'll find you a sense of humor while I'm here." By the end of day 1, my dish rack looked like a graveyard, a pizza box had sprouted on the coffee table, and Aiden had networked by playing 3 hours of online games with a guy who knows a guy. At 11:37 p.m., while I was brushing my teeth, he knocked on the bathroom door. "Do you have any cash?" he asked through the wood. I ordered wings. "You ordered food?" I spat foam into the sink. "With what money?" He paused. "You?" The 2-week clock began to tick. By the end of week 1, my brother had found a job. All right, he made my life his workplace. Job, full-time boundary tester. Aiden's job search looked like surfing. He scrolled, sighed, and announced that everything available was beneath his skill set. His skill set, as best I could tell, included charming strangers and making chores look like optional side quests. He woke up at noon. He showered like the water bill was theoretical. He borrowed my noise-canceling headphones and forgot to return them until I found them under the couch like buried treasure. My coffee disappeared at a rate that suggested a leak in the space-time continuum. On day 5, I came home to find 3 of his friends on my sofa, laughing at a sports announcer with the volume set to inside a stadium. Aiden opened a beer, my beer, and winked. Just a couple of guys. Harmless. We have a no guest rule, I said. Come on. Don't be like that. I'm exactly like that, I said, and pointed to the door. They left with the offended posture of men unaccustomed to being told no by a woman who pays her own rent. That night my mother called. Why would you embarrass your brother? She demanded, as if she had watched the scene through a hidden camera. He needs community. It boosts his morale. He needs to read the agreement he signed, I said. And a calendar. Maybe if you weren't so rigid, she said, things would be easier. Rigid is why I have an apartment for you to invade. She gasped like I'd kicked a kitten. We sacrificed so much for you kids. Mom, you gave us a childhood. I'm grateful. That doesn't entitle anyone to my couch indefinitely. She tried a new angle. Well, he told me you're charging rent. He can't afford it. How is he supposed to save? By working, I said. He is an adult. She hung up. 10 minutes later, Aiden texted, wow, didn't know you were gonna tell on me. As if I were the tattletale in a story where he was the protagonist who deserved a softer plot. So I documented. Every breach. Every payment missed. Every borrowed item that required a search party. Not for court, though I won't pretend the thought never crossed my mind, but for myself. Documentation prevents the slow gaslighting of your own memory. Week 2 began with a miracle. Aiden got a job interview. He borrowed my iron, asked for a tie, and practiced answers in the mirror. I fed him a pep talk I didn't feel. He came back 3 hours later with a high five for himself. How'd it go? I asked. They loved me, he said. But the position isn't quite right. The position, work. I changed the Wi-Fi password. He noticed at 2 a.m. Did the internet die? He asked, wide-eyed. Yes, I said. It died of neglect for the roommate agreement. He stared, betrayed. You said 2 weeks. And I said with rules. Day 10 and you paid 0 rent, broken the guest clause, and used my card at the bodega. He blinked. How do you even know that? Receipts, I said, and held up the paper the cashier had dropped in my bag by mistake. Aiden smiled sheepishly. I'll pay you back. When? When the job that deserves me finds me. I laughed. Not kindly. You're not a rare artifact, Aiden. You're a grown man who can stock shelves and then go to interviews. He flinched. Then he called Mom. 20 minutes later, my mother texted a monologue. He's trying. You're being cruel. We raised you to be generous. Family first. I screenshotted our signed agreement and sent it to both of them. Family first means rules first, I wrote. Pick any 2, stay, pay, respect. Mom called it draconian. Dad sent 3 dots, deleted them, then texted, proud of you, kiddo. Aiden sulked. A sulking man is a weather system. He left wet towels on dry chairs. He developed an allergy to dish soap. He forgot my work schedule and FaceTimed friends at 7 a.m. One morning I found my pantry reorganized in a way that replaced sense with chaos. You're not a guest, I told him after I moved the spices back. You're a roommate on probation. Probation? Parole if you fold the laundry. He laughed and did not fold the laundry. On day 14, the agreed deadline, I set the kitchen timer for our house meeting. Aiden rolled his eyes and sat like a kid at the principal's desk. Do I need a lawyer present? You'll want one if you keep using my card, I said. I had the roommate agreement, a tally of rent owed, and a printout of local jobs circled in red. 2 choices, Aiden. Start paying and actually job hunt, or we enforce move out. He stared at the paper. Then he smiled, slow. Mom says I can stay. Mom doesn't live here, I said. This is my lease. He shrugged. You wouldn't kick out your own brother. Watch me. When I finally started the eviction clock, Aiden didn't look scared. He looked amused. As if he'd already found a way to make me the villain. The smear campaign. The next morning, my aunt called to check in, which in our family is code for "I heard the spicy version and I want the facts." Her voice was sympathetic, her question sharp. "Did you really threaten to kick him out? He says you're turning your back on family. Did he also say he used my card and hasn't paid a dime?" I asked. Aunt hummed. "He said you offered him a budget spreadsheet." She winced audibly. "He told your mother you're unstable. That the stress from work is making you controlling." There it was, the narrative shift. When a boundary appears, some people paint it like a crime scene. I didn't perform indignation. I said, calmly, "I have an agreement he signed, timestamps, and receipts. If anyone wants the truth, I can provide it." "That's not necessary," she said quickly, which meant that is very necessary, and I hope it never comes to it. By evening, the family thread had become a Greek chorus of assumptions. Maybe Nora needs help. Maybe Aiden's depression, maybe if she were nicer. The problem with being the responsible one is that your competence reads as cruelty when you stop subsidizing dysfunction. So I made a decision: we would keep it private, until he made it public. If he told lies out loud, I'd answer with facts at the same volume. That night, I came home to find my pantry reorganized, this time into emptiness. The good olive oil, the fancy tuna, the snacks for my Friday night, gone. Aiden emerged from the kitchen with a halo of crumbs. "Don't freak. It's just food. It's my food." "You're so intense," he said, laughing. "Relax." "I'm relaxed when the terms are respected," I said. "New lock goes on my bedroom tomorrow." He spread his arms. "Wow. Prison warden vibes. Then stop committing petty crimes." He went to his room, my living room, muttering, "You're cruel, you know that?" I didn't answer. I was too busy ordering a door lock and a fireproof document bag, which is what adulthood looks like when you have a saboteur on your sofa. The next day, Aiden escalated. He posted a vague book status: "Some people love rules more than people." Comments poured in. Mom heart reacted. A cousin wrote, "Always here for you bro." Dad wrote nothing. Silence can be a lighthouse when you decide to steer by it. I texted Aiden, "Take it down." He replied with a gif. That afternoon, I submitted a notice to vacate with a polite cover letter and the signed agreement attached. The building manager, who has seen every human dynamic in the animal kingdom, nodded. "You did the paperwork," she said. "You'll be fine." At dinner, Aiden was sugar. He asked about my day. He cleared his plate. He even wiped the counter like a man in a commercial for decency. "I've been thinking," he said, and maybe I was a little defensive. "I'll do better." I exhaled, cautiously. Doing better looks like job applications and rent. "For sure," he said, eyes soft. "And hey, do you still have that spare key?" "I lost mine." "No," I said. "Can I borrow yours?" "I'll get a copy made." "No," I said again. "Boundaries aren't mean. They're math." He smiled. We watched a show. We didn't fight. I went to sleep thinking perhaps the storm had chosen someone else's coastline. In the morning, my bedroom door was ajar. My new lock, still in its box on the dresser, stared at me like an accusation. I ran to the living room. Aiden's blanket was thrown across the back of the sofa. His duffel was half-zipped. The kitchen trash bag bulged with the shape of a small safe, my small safe, which had been under my bed since last year. "Aiden!" I shouted. He popped up from behind the counter with a spoon in his mouth and my safe at his feet. The spoon clattered. He flinched like he'd been caught sneaking an extra cookie, not my passport and social security card. "What are you doing?" My voice came from a place underwater. He blinked. Composed himself. "Relax. I was looking for the iron." "In my safe?" He straightened. "You're paranoid." I pointed. "Put that. Down. He shrugged, hands up, the innocent man in every bad movie. Okay. Geez. He set the safe back into the trash bag. A small metallic cling inside told me something had shifted. Leave, I said, shaking. Go to a cafe. I need to be alone. I live here, he said. Not for long. He grabbed his jacket. At the door, he turned. If you kick me out, don't expect Dad to keep siding with you. I don't expect anything, I said. I document. He left. I pulled the safe from the bag. The latch was bent. Inside, passport, SS card, checkbook, intact. My emergency cash, however, had become emergency air. I sat on the floor, safe open, heart a drum. My phone buzzed. Mom. He says you're fake crying to turn Dad against us. Why are you doing this to your brother? I took a picture of the safe. Sent it to both of them. This is why. Mom replied with a paragraph of denial. Aiden sent 3 laughing emojis. I looked at the bent latch and realized, the only thing worse than being accused of cruelty for setting boundaries is letting the accusation talk you out of them. I changed the Wi-Fi password again. I emailed the building manager. I took the day off work. I wrote an itemized timeline. I printed it. I slid it into a folder labeled receipts. And then I called my father. I need you here, I said. Not as a mediator. As a witness. He was at my door in 20 minutes, eyes tired, jaw set. I showed him the safe. I showed him the agreement. I showed him the rent ledger with its neat column of zeros under Aiden's name. Dad read silently. When he finished, he blew out a breath. Okay, he said. We do this by the book. He texted Aiden. Come home. Aiden arrived with a face like he expected a hug and a bailout. He got neither. Dad stood between us. Son, Dad said, you're moving out. Today. Aiden laughed. You can't make me. Dad's voice did not rise, it dropped. I can. And I am. Mom called in the middle of the standoff. Dad answered and put her on speaker. He's stealing, Dad said, simple as weather. We're done pretending. Silence. Then Mom's voice did the wobble between rage and fear. She's turning you against your own family. Dad looked at me, then at Aiden, then at the safe on the table. This turned me. Moving him out should have ended it. Instead, it triggered the family's favorite pastime, rewriting history. So I brought the one thing you can't argue with, your own words. Eviction day and the playback. We did it by the book, which meant no shouting, no slammed doors, just a stack of paper and a clock. Dad called the building manager. She arrived with a clipboard and the polite expression of someone who's witnessed 500 variations of the same story. Per the notice to vacate, she said, you've got 2 hours to collect personal items. Anything left goes into storage and will be released against the balance due. She looked at Aiden. Balance is what you owe your sister under the signed agreement. Aiden smirked like a teenager accused of stealing attention. What if I don't agree? She turned the clipboard so he could see his signature. You already did. He stuffed clothes into a duffel like they'd wronged him. When he reached for my headphones, Dad said, not yours, and it surprised me how much relief I felt hearing him say mine on my behalf. Mom showed up halfway through, eyes flashing, heels clicking adrenaline. This is cruelty, she announced in the doorway, projecting to an imaginary jury. You're humiliating your own brother. No, Dad said, steady as a surveyor. We're moving him out with dignity and documents. Dignity? She laughed, brittle. You're choosing her over your son. He didn't blink. I'm choosing the adult who's paying the lease. I set a banker's box on the coffee table. Inside, the roommate agreement, screenshots of the card charges, the grocery receipt with his signature, a photo of the bent safe latch, and a neat ledger titled what you owe / what you broke / what you borrowed. I kept my voice even. I'd like to go over this before he leaves, so there are no misunderstandings later. Aiden barked a laugh. You really are into paperwork. Yes, I said. Because it doesn't forget. Mom tried to block the moment with noise. Nora, you have always been so careful? I offered. Controlling. Correct, I said. Today I'm controlling the keys to my front door. He threw one last Hail Mary. If you post any of this, you'll wreck me. No one will hire me. I'm not posting, I said. I'm documenting. Unless you keep lying in public. Then I'll match your volume. He shouldered past us with the duffel, muttering, You're gonna be alone forever if you stay like this. Better alone than robbed, I said, and it came out mild and honest, which made it land harder. Downstairs, Dad walked him to the curb, Mom paced in the lobby firing off texts that ping-ponged between rage and martyrdom. I stayed upstairs, wiping counters I'd already cleaned. The apartment felt like it had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. When Dad returned, he didn't pretend the day had been anything but terrible. He handed me the spare key from the family drawer. This stays with you, he said. Then, softer, I'm sorry it took a safe to make me brave. Thank you for being brave now, I said. That evening the family group chat detonated. Nora evicted her own brother. Money obsessed. Who keeps receipts on family? I didn't respond. Dad did. He dropped a single PDF, roommate_agreement_sign.pdf followed by a photo of the safe latch. Then he wrote, We're done arguing with opinions. These are facts. For 20 minutes, silence. Then messages trickled in, awkward, hedged. Didn't know there was an agreement. Wow, that's messed up about the safe. Yikes. Mom left the chat. The absence was louder than her presence had ever been. Aiden posted a new status, Some people weaponize boundaries. Dad replied publicly, Some people weaponize family. The comments turned. Not against him, against the story he'd been selling. I didn't feel victorious. I felt untangled. That night I slept with the window cracked open. The city breathed. I dreamed about a file cabinet where everything had a label and nothing tried to crawl out of the drawer. Aftermath, boundaries, and the slowly moving needle. Evicting someone doesn't evict the narrative. The next weeks were a series of small negotiations with the past. Mom attempted an apology brunch. In our family, that means an ambush with croissants. I met her at a diner instead, neutral territory, chairs that don't encourage lingering. She arrived with a tote bag and a speech. I'm sorry, she began, crisp. For my tone. For being emotional. Those were not the nouns the day required. I need you to be sorry for the accusations, I said. For the smear. For calling me unstable. For telling everyone I was cruel while my things went missing in my own home. She stiffened. He didn't steal. He borrowed. He was desperate. So was I said, for sleep, safety, and my name back. She exhaled through her nose, like a bull deciding whether to charge. Fine. I'm sorry for those things. And going forward? I asked. No more triangulating. No backchannel judgments. If you criticize me, do it to my face, in writing. Her lips twitched. You make life so formal. I make life clear. I slid a printed card across the table, family boundaries. No unannounced arrivals. No financial requests by third parties. No smearing. If you lie publicly, I will correct publicly, with receipts. Group communication for sensitive topics. Keys stay with the leaseholder. Period. She read it like a menu. And if I break these? We pause contact for 30 days. That's punitive. That's a cooling off period, I said. I'm not punishing, I'm protecting. She nodded, not agreement exactly, acknowledgement. Progress sometimes looks like two people deciding not to burn a bridge while still standing in gasoline. Aiden began couch surfing. He texted at odd hours, Can I use your address for a job app? Can you co-sign? Quick $200? I answered with the same sentence every time, I wish you well. I can't be your safety net. He cycled through moods, charm, rage, silence. Silence lasted the longest. Dad checked in without prying. He sent pictures of the dog, weather reports, and one sentence that said more than a monologue, your apartment looks happy in the daylight. I texted back a photo of the bookshelf and the plant that refuses to die. On a Sunday, the building manager called, we found a spare key in the laundry room with your unit number. She held it in a paper envelope when I came down, gloved like evidence. Copy? I asked. She nodded. Sloppy job. Hardware store special. The world tilted, threat, petty, possible. I installed the new lock that night and slept with a chair wedged under the knob because courage and fear can share a bed on bad days. A week later, Aiden sent a long message that didn't sound like him. It sounded like exhaustion dictating to humility. I got a warehouse job. It's not glamorous. It's work. I can pay $50 a week until I'm current. If that's not enough, I understand. You're not obligated to be moved by the first adult sentence someone writes. But you're allowed to be. Pay what you can, when you can, I replied. I'll apply it to the ledger. Then, congratulations on the job. Work is beautiful. He sent a thumbs up. It felt like a truce with the part of him that might one day want a treaty. At Dad's birthday dinner, small, quiet, the kind of night that doesn't demand a story, Mom handed me an envelope. Inside, a check for $350 from Aiden, a scribbled note, for rent/food/safe latch. I put it in the receipts folder and, for the first time since the day the doorbell rang at 8 a.m., allowed myself to cry happy. After dessert, Mom lingered in the kitchen. He's trying, she said, as if confessing a secret that didn't want to be held too hard. I am, too. Good, I said. Keep trying where I can't see you fail. Then show me the results. She almost smiled. You are impossible. I'm clear, I said. Both can be true, she murmured, and it sounded almost like affection. Rebuilding the house the story lives in. The apartment remembered how to be mine. Little rituals returned, Friday noodles, Saturday quiet, Sunday laundry folded like a prayer for the week ahead. I hung a small corkboard by the door and pinned two things, the signed roommate agreement, retired, but a relic of self-respect, and a Polaroid Dad took of me and the plant on the windowsill. We both looked like people who had learned how to be unafraid without becoming unkind. I kept the receipts folder, not as a threat but as a journal of a season I survived. Inside, next to the ledger and the photos, I added a page titled House Rules I Wish Someone Had Taught Me Sooner. Generosity without agreement is sponsorship of chaos. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors with locks and hours. If someone insists you're cruel for needing safety, believe their self-report. Documentation is kindness to your future self. Family without accountability is just PR. On a Wednesday, Aiden called. Not a text. A call. I got a promotion, he said, voice shy like he didn't want to spook it. Shift lead. It's not much. It's adult, I said. I'm proud of you. He inhaled like oxygen surprised him. Thanks. And, thanks for not posting everything. You could have. I still could, I said, and he laughed, a real, warm sound I hadn't heard in years. Fair, he said. I'm paying you back. It'll take time. I have time, I said. I don't have square footage. We didn't talk about the safe or the keys or the way my mother had tried to turn my backbone into a weapon. We talked about coffee brands and the weather and how his boss wears the same lucky hat every Tuesday. Ordinary conversation, proof of life. When we hung up, I stood at the window and watched a couple across the street carry a bookshelf up 3 flights, stopping to laugh when it stuck on the landing. Love looks like a lot of things. That night, it looked like two people figuring out how to pivot without breaking anything antique. I texted Mom a photo of the corkboard. She responded with a picture of a cake recipe clipped from a magazine. Thinking about Sunday. Your favorite. Under it, a second message, I won't bring it without asking first. Progress. Not perfect. But real. The key stayed in my pocket for another week, then moved to the bowl by the door where it belonged. The plant kept refusing to die. I kept refusing to apologize for clarity. We were, all of us, learning to live in a house where the story told the truth without needing an audience.